everyone, and welcome back to Fistful of Feminism. Forgot my own thing.
Yeah.
My name is Monica, and I'm here with the one and only
Kathy.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but I'm sorry, and we're back.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk to you all today about Zootopia. Okay, before we go into what we're about to talk about, like, if you could describe Zootopia in like 3 words. And they don't have to be connected, they could be like 3 different words. What would you do?
Animals.
Uh-huh.
Racism.
Yeah.
And missing the mark is a phrase, so that's not helpful.
But that's like, I will give it to you. So. Missing the mark, yeah. I would say almost. Good try. Oh, that's 2 words.
Yeah.
Almost good try. I think that kind of sums it up. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some things that we felt about the film. This has been a long time coming. I saw Zootopia like a really long time ago, but this is your first time.
Yeah, I just
Watch
saw
it.
it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, we finished it, and I'm feeling like my initial reactions were on point. So let's get into this. We'll start with gender. What are your thoughts on the gendered aspects of this film? We'll start off with whatever you want.
Sure. So, we have a female protagonist.
Mhm.
Great. But we're given mostly limits in terms of this gendered protagonist. So we've got this protagonist that wants to do a certain job. In this case, it's be a police officer, and immediately we're told, no, girls don't do that. Well, actually, we're told, no, bunnies don't do that. And it's very strange how all of the different animals that are used in this are very much gendered. So when one thinks of a bunny, bunnies are always girls, cats are always girls, and dogs are always boys, and that kind of gendering happens throughout the film. It's super weird.
It's very weird. So in total of the film, Kathy counted that there was like 6
I think 6 speaking.
women.
Like, I wasn't writing it down, but I think there were 6 female characters that had lines.
Yeah, and that's like not like long lines, you know, just speaking in general, which is very bizarre when you think about it. But yeah, so like we follow Judy Hopps, which is the main character, and kind of get to understand her gendered problems through like entering into the police workforce and seeing the obstacles that she kind of faces and how she comes to terms with that, which is like a cool start to begin with. But then you start realizing, like Kathy was saying, like the weird gendering of these animals, like all of the predators, which all of the animals were put in a binary, which is interesting that they did that, but of predators and prey. And almost all of the predators are coded as like male or men or masculine in some way, which is so weird. Like, what?
Yeah, it's really weird. And like they'll always throw in like one character that's not coded that way, just so they can be like, oh no, look at this one character. Like that, the example being Clawhauser was the one character that's not coded as super masculine, but is the only one that's kind of queer coded.
Yeah,
at the same time.
And like, if they're not coded as super masculine, then they're super like not masculine. So like that binary is reinforced of like, well, if you're not the super masculinized predator and you're like not on the prowl, then you're automatically feminized, which is bizarre.
Which is so problematic, especially because like obviously queer characters can be super masculine. So having that one character be queer coded and then the only male character that's not super masculine was super weird.
Yeah. So just a lot of like bizarre dynamics is what we were kind of discussing, and how the lack of women is like, I think it's meant to be that way, but like everything is just kind of missing its mark there. So gender is emphasized but also upheld in the same way that it's trying to be called out, I suppose. I think we should talk about Bellwether.
Yeah.
The assistant to the mayor first, and then she becomes the mayor. This was the first thing that bothered me about the film, and it like carried on the second time, and we'll talk about it a little bit later as well.
Yeah. Spoilers in this video is what we should probably mention, because we're going to talk about all the things.
You've had a lot of time to watch this film.
Yeah.
She is very obviously mistreated as the assistant to the mayor and very gendered. So the mayor is like this huge masculine lion and she is a little sheep.
Yeah, like a tiny little skirt wearing, like mousy behind the glasses, doesn't speak up for herself sheep,
Yeah.
which is very opposite from the mayor.
Mm-hmm. So it's like obviously they're trying to make a statement that way of like,
Yeah.
oh look, she's in this subservient role. Like, isn't that problematic?
Yeah.
But Bellwether is one of the only characters because there's a lot of lines thrown out throughout the film that we're going to talk about later that are kind of supposed to be really poignant, but Bellwether, before you find out the rest of the plot, says a line that is really, really poignant, and it actually makes sense within her character. She speaks about herself as a glorified secretary, and that she really only had the job because the mayor was trying to get the sheep vote.
In itself, that whole thing is very problematic.
Yeah. That was one of the only times where I felt in the film that the calling out actually almost fit. Because it was kind of talking about like, hey, this is kind of messed up. That
Yeah.
I'm a woman and I have to be more of a secretary even though I am like,
Like, officially, I am the second
yeah.
to the mayor.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is my title.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
fact, like, I only got the job because I'm a woman is basically what it's saying. So, and you hear so many people being like, oh, well, that person wouldn't have gotten the job if it wasn't for this certain type of action that we're trying to get more women or more whatever. And that's even a whole action throughout the film is like the Mammal Inclusion Act or whatever it is. And it's just like, like, you only got the job because you're a woman and we're trying to favor women. You only got the job because you're a mammal and we're trying to favor mammals, but really we're gonna treat them like crap. I think it's super weird.
Yeah. It was interesting because she says this line, and obviously, like, it's very political and has a bunch of intention behind it, but then later when you find out that she's actually the villain behind it all, it's like, so women can either be like a hero or they're totally the bad guy, and if they are like trying to, like, in their search for power, it's not going to work out for them because like they're evil and they're trying to like change the masculine system.
Yeah, like the only way for them to gain power is to be the most powerful, which in turn always looks like taking all of the power and then trying to keep all the power instead of just having a reasonable amount of like autonomy and power within their life. Like it's an all or nothing dynamic, which is
this whole thing. We're just like all or nothing.
Yeah.
Get in there.
There's nothing in the middle.
No.
There is. Most of the world is in the middle.
Yeah. And that's a good segue to the fact that obviously gender is not separate from the next thing we're going to talk about, which is race and racialization.
There is so much race coding throughout this, and it
So
was so strange.
Confusing,
It was
really.
really confusing because oftentimes you'd have these characters that were getting this kind of race coding, and then it was something different around the corner for them. It was just weird, like the totally unnecessary touching of Bellwether's hair and how that kind of coded her as an African American woman was super weird.
Yeah, and just like the misunderstanding of how these real life struggles for like different communities and POC communities were just like kind of co-opted into lines of dialogue that were just like convenient.
Yeah, and then not
So-
really thought. Like, she didn't get
Yeah.
the chance to say, actually, you shouldn't touch my hair. It was as though she couldn't even tell that it was happening and that they were talking about it on either sides of her, which was like, what? No.
Yeah, and if we are coding that, then like this seemingly white bunny from the country is like coming in and being like, no, you shouldn't do that because I'm super feminist.
Yeah.
So, what? So like all throughout the film, there was these really bizarre codings of that, and then when you actually like look at the cast of the movie, most of the actors are white actors.
Yeah.
So the credence that it could have had from, you know, actually understanding what it means to racially code someone, like the power and the positivity that could have had was just like completely lost on me.
Yeah.
It's just like Jason Bateman calling out racism is not what I want to see.
Yeah.
Which kind of like lends itself to this idea of like this colorblind society, you know, like Zootopia.
Yes, we live in a utopia where everything is okay, and it's like, actually, no, it's not. Which the movie made fun of itself for that as well. Like, Jason Bateman's character totally had this whole long line of everyone thinks that it's gonna be great, and then you get there, and then you realize it's not, and you go on with your life. La 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 la. It's interesting because these types of movies like to make fun of their own genres, but then they don't necessarily follow through with everything that they could to really make it a parody of the genre. They just kind of like a half-assed make fun of it, but then not actually solve any problems.
Yeah, like present all of these different things, because there's so many,
Yeah.
and then just leave it there.
Yeah.
Don't unpack it, just...
Yeah, here's some things.
My favorite moments, when I say favorite, I don't necessarily mean favorite, but like, there's a point when Judy Hopps meets, I always forget the Fox's character.
Nicholas Wilde.
Nicholas. And they have this exchange where she doesn't know that he's like kind of dealing back doors, whatever.
Yeah.
And she speaks to him saying like, wow, you're a real articulate fella. And Nicholas just goes like, yeah, it's really nice to meet someone who is not patronizing to me.
Yeah.
So like, just what you said, like you're trying to parody it, but like they're both white actors. Like, why do we need to hear that from them?
Yeah.
You know, like it's not as if Jason Bateman or any actor that would take that has never had that experience of being called like someone being surprised at them being articulate, like it loses all its credence and power.
Yeah, like if it was opposite, it would have done at least something for gender.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One for gender, one for race. Like but that's kind of what it feels like. It's like they call out tokenism, but this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
They're also tokenizing.
Yeah.
And not in an ironic way. Just that's what they're doing.
Yeah. And then to like push that further when we talk about like Zootopia being like this literal utopia where like everyone comes together and whatever, but there's still like racially stereotyped spaces within the city. So like the Oasis. What is it actually called?
Oh yeah, it was called the
Mystic Spring Oasis.
Yeah.
Why? You're doing a movie about racism. Why do you gotta be racist?
Yeah.
Like, but and not even that, because like obviously, you know, anti-racism is a really hard thing to put into your art. It's hard because you have to be accountable to so many things. But to like put forward this idea that like, look, like we're gonna actually analyze race through a kids movie, and then also be like, but also there's this yoga studio that's super Indian, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole scene did not need to be there. It really didn't help at all.
Who asked for that? So all of that coming together made for us mixed metaphors.
So many of them.
If you like, I haven't just watched it now. What is like the message that you took away? Maybe even like trying to think through the message that you would have taken away as someone that maybe didn't know some of the language that they were using. Like, what do you think the takeaway would be for someone who is like maybe a kid? You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I feel like the takeaway message for somebody who's not really analyzing it would be the whole, like, we should try to make the world a better place, which is what it was telling you at the end of it. But at the same time, it didn't really give you any tools with which to do that. So it was like, here's some problematic stuff, but we're not really going to challenge it, such as Judy's parents were super problematic, but they weren't really challenged at all. Oh, the thing that I wanted to make sure to talk about was there were so many points in the film where it was almost what it needed to be, and for me the biggest thing that stood out was the terms of accessibility. So for example, the train that gets you to Zootopia, oh my god, that is a hard sentence to say.
Hard.
The train that gets you to Zootopia, I'm just gonna stutter over it, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Has different sizes of doors for different sizes of creatures, which is great, and that at when you don't critique it, looks like accessibility, but then you don't actually see any creatures that need mobility devices, for example. The only kind of device that any of the characters use is glasses, and that's more of a fashion statement and a characterized statement than showing people that have different forms of ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and that's like, people wouldn't even think of, oh, that sheep can't see very well. They just think that's something that type of character would wear, because we've typed these secretary type characters to have glasses.
Yeah, and just the way that they like use them too, because like now you're making me think like the glasses.
Yeah,
just
she
kind of
pushes
kept,
them up a lot.
pushing them
They're
up,
always
like,
kind of askew.
it's like a quirk
Yeah.
rather than actually taking the time to analyze. Like, okay, if this is supposed to be a city that's equitable for all, like why aren't we showing the fact that if we are going to talk about things like gender and race in this coded way, is that as far as we go? You know,
Yeah.
like, and obviously, like from this channel and from Kathy and I's discussions, we obviously try and look at these things through an intersectional, anti-racist, transnational lens. And man, that language is not available to everyone, and that I want to acknowledge that for sure. But we keep erasing people. We keep erasing people who might have disabilities within this world, and just say that they just don't exist. What? It wasn't
It's
the
just
bell.
the lamp.
Oh,
I'm like,
Did you
that's
see
still
that?
on, that's still on, we're good.
when we say like mixed metaphors, it was just a lot of everything.
Yeah, a lot was put into it, but not necessarily really addressed, such as the anti-immigrant sentiment.
Yeah.
Was thrown in there during like the protest that they were having, and somebody just yelled out something blatantly anti-immigrant, and somebody replied with, "But I'm from here," basically. And then that wasn't really addressed. It was just one of those things that we know happens, but it wasn't unpacked any further.
And it's very jarring.
Yeah,
because as soon as
super jarring.
you hear it, it's like, whoa, that's real. That had potential to go somewhere to like really disrupt the narrative in which you're creating in your head, and it's like, oh, like I'm seeing this, like that's really wrong, and you can really, you know, even any kind of age who is watching this movie, because of course it's a kids movie, like can be like, wow, like that's really a not cool thing.
Yeah.
But to kind of conflate all of these issues together when it would have served the purpose, I think, of the movie to just keep going on like one metaphor.
Yeah, it was really trying to grab anything that could possibly have to do with race and gender dynamics, and
That they knew.
yeah, exactly, and it was just way too much all at once.
I appreciate the attempt of nuancing
yeah.
and complicating, because this is hard work to deal with. Like, it's hard to understand that you are in this system that is confusing, and like kids are maybe not going to grasp intersectionality at the first try.
Yeah, and the movie itself was trying really hard to put forward a message of people in power will try to use fear to keep people under them. Like, that was a huge running theme in it. Fear always works is a direct quote. But it didn't really unpack any ways to get around that besides like have a pen that is also a recorder and get the mayor to say something that they don't want recorded. Like, that's about it.
Yeah, would have benefited from a little bit more fine tuning of what it is exactly we're trying to say, and more consultation.
Yeah.
I feel like, because there's like no mention of like indigenous people in this narrative. It's just like it's a black-white dichotomy, and then also an immigrant dichotomy. Like,
Yeah.
it's very, I don't know.
Yeah, the entire movie is very binary no matter what you're talking about. It's either talking about very masculine, very feminine, very predator, very prey. Whichever binary you could think of is kind of what was in there.
Yeah, and I wish that, you know, in the spirit of trying to nuance and complicate things, that we didn't just, you know, assume for younger audiences that they won't pick up on things that aren't binaries. Because, I mean, I've said it a couple times, like in this video, that I don't know if kids will understand it, but there are kids that would be able to see that and understand that, because kids also lead nuanced lives and complicated lives. So they would be able to pick up, and even if they didn't, like, it's still a resource in which to do that. And I think, have you seen Inside Out?
I haven't yet. That's on my super long
Next
list of
video.
things. Yeah, that sounds great to me because I want to watch it, so I might as well watch it with the intent of doing a video about it.
Right? But
Yeah.
you kind of like know what it's about. Like,
Yeah,
how it kind of
like-
touches on mental health.
Mental health and emotions,
Yeah.
which this movie was kind of terrible mental health wise. with the whole going savage thing and them being drugged to words and things, and it was very mental health shamey as well. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I won't, without going into Inside Out. Inside Out, like, we know it's a movie about mental health and emotions. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a lot more to it, but this was almost an access way for young audiences to see that and then, oh, mental health is important.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway. Whereas, like, with Zootopia, what do you know? What do you think is your final takeaway?
It was really like, try to make the world a better place. But we don't know how. That was it.
My sum up was like, although Disney, I'm happy that you're getting into this terrain of difficult subjects. Maybe do more research.
Yeah.
Because, like...
Keep trying
Yeah,
by
keep
all
trying.
means. Do not stop trying.
Mhm.
Because nobody should ever stop trying.
Yeah.
Really, like, we're going to get things wrong.
Yeah.
We're not going to stand here or
Oh,
sit
yeah.
here and say that we've gotten everything right. Because
Yeah.
there's no way.
And I think there's so much value in the people that did find value in this movie and took
Mhm.
away what they needed to take away from it. That's awesome, because this is what we do on this channel. We critique the things that we love or like and be able to talk through it so that next time we are better equipped
Yep.
to change the world.
With these tools.
I'm Judy Hopps. So that's what we think about Zootopia.
I would really like to know if anybody else watched this movie and had similar thoughts, or if they think that we're completely off the mark and that it actually hit a bunch of points that we didn't notice. Because we were very distracted with what are they doing?
What is happening?
So, yeah.
So many notes.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about in the comments down below. Please subscribe to Kathy. Go over to Kathy's channel. You can do that over this way. And as always, if you like, you can subscribe and go there and It's been so long since I've done that. Kathy is the best. Goodbye.
Bye!